Hello and welcome back to Ride Rescue. At this point, I'm getting really excited about this car. I'm getting excited it's going to be finished. I've put a lot of hours into the car. At the end of this video, we'll talk about a little bit more of the cost because basically the car is almost finished at the end of this video. So now that I have the front seats in and all the carpet in, I want to get the car over to my buddy's shop at R&M Upholstery in Salt Lake City and have him do my door panels the way I've got them sketched up. I want him to do the back seat. There's areas around the back top mechanism where it all folds down that I want to have him do. But I want to get the top in first because I want him to be able to work around that back area knowing where all the top mechanism is, the back well liner. So that's the point I'm at now. All the top mechanism I took out of the car. It's a big no-no. A lot of people say don't do that because they're so difficult to get everything back in and get adjusted. There are so many things that the guys back in the day on the assembly lines knew how to do and knew what to do. Just completely going at it blind from scratch is extremely difficult. But all the mechanism in this car had a lot of wear and it was just a mess. It was sagging at the top. All the joints, the pivots were loose and needed new bushings. The tack strips that went around the edges that you tacked the material to was coming apart. It had several tops on it, and all those times stapling and pulling out the staples and stapling again. It was just disintegrating. So all the top mechanism needed to be restored. Plus, I want it to be perfect. So I want all the pieces to be sanded and painted, and then all the bolts, as I put it back together, I want all the bolts polished. There's some stainless steel bolts that all the pivot points are. Most guys just paint over all that stuff because they don't dare take it all apart. They mask it and paint it in the car, so they don't typically get done perfectly. But with this, I really want it to be perfect. So once I restore all the pieces, the latches at the top of the windshield, the original factory latches were pitted really bad. I couldn't find the Skylark brackets anywhere. They were slightly different for the other A-body cars. But since the car's custom, I don't have to worry about making it exactly an original match. So I bought some. They were probably Chevelle or a GTL. But they work. They mount the same way. They just had a little bit different contours to them. And then the mechanisms, they're black that pivot and pull and tuck and latch everything down. I restored those. You can buy all new, but those were actually in pretty good shape. So I just needed to clean them up and grease them and paint them. So you kind of go through all the adjustments with the frame. With the windows, you roll all the windows up in the car. The windows have to be in the car at the time. You just kind of adjust the framework around the glass. I'm replacing all the rubber in this top, all the seals for the doors and the windows were just decayed and cracked. Luckily they have kits for those, so I was able to replace all that. So you kind of have to put all that together, get everything kind of adjusted, and then start putting all the materials back on. First thing I got to do is the back bow around the top of the back window has a measurement that has to be in a specific spot. The plexiglass, the vinyl, staples into the whale well. It has holes in it where you bolt that to the strip of the body. And where those bolt holes are, that's the critical measurement to where this particular one has a zip out liner, so you can zip out the window and let it fall down into the well. That's where I started. So once I start with that point and with that measurement, I just put a few staples in it, put a few bolts in it, and then I pull the two side pads, the pads that go from the windshield back to that back apron, that back window area, and those pads are just kind of temporarily stapled into place. And then you check all those dimensions. And as you start to pull the pads more tightly, back window gets more tight, and everything is adjusted, then the frame starts to bind up. And that bind, it has to be adjusted so that as things are tightened and it pulls back, you lose that adjustment to the windshield. And by the time I got everything adjusted in the corner areas for the back glass, for everything to line up with the two windows together and the rubber trim, I couldn't reach the windshield anymore. The windshield area was too far away. It pulled everything back. So that had to be extended all the way out. I couldn't quite get it all the way out to the windshield, and that was part of the problem that I had with the car with the other top on it. When I bought the car, it had a brand new top on it. It was a shame to throw away that top, but I had to rebuild all the frame system, and once you take a top off, it doesn't make sense to put it back on. So adjusting that front bow onto the windshield, I couldn't get it where it needed to be. I had to take the corners of that framework apart, and I had to oval out the holes and change the bolting mechanism and extend that further out. So it was risky, but I want this thing to be perfect. And it was so hard to latch that top down. So I don't think it was ever right to begin with. My thought was, when I had all the problems with the car breaking loose and the body flexing and the doors not fitting and the floor of the car cracking from rust, I assumed that was the issue with this car. But the doors are a perfect fit. The fenders are a perfect fit. All the body work is done. So there's no moving that windshield at this point. I have to customize the frame to get the top to work. Luckily, there's plenty of material in this new top that I bought. I bought a canvas top. It's a black canvas. It's absolutely beautiful. It has that real high-end look, like a Mercedes-Benz or a Rolls-Royce, an exotic car. So now that I have the framework adjusted right, my pads are stapled down, the back window is stapled in, the rear well for the top to fold into, that's all stapled into place. Now you take it all back apart again around that back bolt strip area and put the top on. So if everything goes as planned and all the measurements are correct, right around there's some puckered corners on the way that top is made, and you line up those corners side to side and staple across that back at that bow. And then the corners down to the quarter panels, that is pulled down and stapled into place. And then there's wraps that wrap around at the quarter windows that has to be pulled around and glued, and then you pull around the front of the windshield. Well, the way the instructions are with these tops, you pull it over about 1 inch onto the windshield and then staple it on, and that extra tension will pull everything tight. Well, the experience I've had with tops that I've done in the past, pulling it 1 inch is too much. They have a tendency to bind up the top. And I don't know if shops over the years have figured that out and they don't pull it as tight. And maybe that's why you're seeing more and more wrinkles. I see a lot of wrinkles at car shows, especially around the back window area. So I'm taking the chance with this one, because if I don't pull it tight enough and I staple it and I end up having to pull it further, I'm okay. But if I pull it too far and I have to pull the staples and relax it, you're going to see the staple holes. So I do not want that. So I only pulled it about 1/2 inch up around the front, and then the back areas, the first time, you can see in these pictures, the first time I got it all set and I thought I had it, you can see it wrinkles up. So put it out in the sun, get it good and hot, bring it in the garage while it's still warm, hurry and pull all the staples, and I'd made marks around the back well area where I wanted to bring down an area or bring it around a little bit, because the way it's wrinkling kind of front to back. So I wanted to pull that around to the quarter windows. Well, I did a 69 Cadillac like this, and I pulled those quarter windows around about 1/2 inch, and when I put the top up, it split, and that's the end of the top. You don't fix that. So I've learned from that. When I'm pulling side to side, it doesn't take much. You only want to just pull it a little bit at a time, of just 1/8 of an inch. I sprayed it with tack adhesive, sprayed the rail with tack adhesive, so it tacks just enough to hold it in place. But if it's going to really bind and grab, that tack will let go and it will rip. I've got it where I want it. I've got it pulled over to the vinyl window where I want it. Bolt it all down again. It's close. Put it out in the sun, heat it all up, it relaxes. The back window relaxes and it rolls. The side corners wrinkled a little bit, so I know I've got to take it all apart again, pull that back vinyl window tighter side to side, pull the side panels just a little bit more, get it out in the sun, and finally it is absolutely perfect. The back window is perfectly flat. The side pieces, there are no wrinkles. My area around the front, there's a little bit of puckering in the corners, so I need to pull that a little bit tighter. So I relax the front end of it, pull that around and staple it, and it looks absolutely perfect. So after that is all finished, there's a piece that goes around that top bow at the top of the back window that it opens up. It's got a metal fiber in it. You staple that on, fold it over, tap it down with a rubber mallet, and then there's a little metal stainless steel pieces that just are little finals that you screw onto the ends that finish it all off. The top looks so good. I took pictures of it, and the guy that I bought the top from, that made the top for me, had mentioned, says, we've never done this type of a top on an A-body GM car. So he says, when it's all finished, please send me the pictures because I'd like to use it in advertisements. So if you go on eBay right now, or there's a lot of other ads online, you'll find my car with this perfect top on it because they really love the way that top looked, and they've been pushing that top a lot on different advertisements. So I'm proud of seeing that out there and how well the top actually worked out. So with the top all perfect and everything's all mounted down, now's the time to go back in, put the top down. There's a rubber seal that goes across the front that has to be glued down. So you use some rubber adhesive. There's some screws, there's some little plastic pins that poke through. Put all that on along the tops of the windows. That is screwed on, and then it has a seal. So I put a rubber seal across that to seal up the moisture from coming in. Same with the back windows. So now I have to take the window mechanism and adjust it again for one final last time. Get the window mechanism, the joints along above the windows of the doors was up just a little bit, so I had to adjust it and bring it down, and then I had to adjust the windows and bring them down a little bit. And I was thinking, okay, now that I have a tinted rear window, I want to tint the side windows. And the best way to tint these windows is to take them out. I want the tint to be everywhere. I want it to be all the way down, all the way to the edges. I don't want to have where the window goes into the felt on the little wing windows. I want that to be fully covered too with the tint film. So I pulled the glass back out. It's a lot of work, but I want it to be perfect. So you can see in these pictures, the one back window that I did, I put the tint, a fairly dark tint on that back window. I did the same with all the windows in the car to match that back window. So when all the windows are up and the top's up and you're cruising down the highway, it's just sinister. It has that sleek, low to the ground, just blacked out look that just really looks sharp. So with all the windows adjusted, all of the top finished, the back well liner is all done. Now I take it over to my buddy's shop at RM Upholstery in Salt Lake City and turn it over to him, and he finished all the upholstery for me. The plan was to have the car ready for a show. It was called the UVU show. It's Utah Valley University has a fantastic program there for doing classic cars and bodywork and educating the younger generation on doing custom cars. And so they hold this event every year, and they have a lot of big name sponsors come in. One of the sponsors, the year that I had all the upholstery finally finished, was Bitch and Rides from the TV show. Dave Kindig has his shop here in town in Salt Lake City, and his crew was there at this car show, and I was just so excited that they picked my car as their sponsor's choice out of probably 600-700 cars at that car show. So that was quite an honor to be picked by a crew that really knows a custom car. That's what they do. They build custom cars all the time, and they fell in love with my car. Dave Kindig wasn't there that day, so I didn't get a chance to talk to him, but I did run into him at another show. I had the car in the Autorama that year, and his guys made a point in dragging him over to see my car because they were so excited to show it off to him because they'd been telling him all about my car. Dave Kindig is a really nice guy. I really enjoy talking to him when I run into him at the shows. He's still very down to earth, very humble, and his guys are all great guys. So his show, I don't know if you've seen it, if you get a chance to see it, check him out. Bitchin' Rides is a really well done series. So one of the things that I did when I finished off all the interior, the padded dash that went around the gauge cluster was originally blue. And I couldn't find a black one anywhere. For that matter, I couldn't even find one that was any good. They're usually cracked. Mine is perfect. So I decided to clean it all up. There's different vinyl cleaners where you can do a deep clean to get all the oils and waxes and different cleaners and chemicals that have been used over the years, especially Armor All. You got to strip all that out, and you use a primer, which is a plastic adhesion promoter. Spray all that vinyl coating with that adhesion promoter, and then used a vinyl black spray paint that I painted that black, and it all matched everything else in the car. And you'd never know that underneath that black is actually a blue padded dash. Same thing with the steering wheel. You can see in the picture, I have a blue steering wheel. It's one of the first things I bought for the car. The original steering wheel was all cracked and broken. 64, 65 Skylarks are notorious for having bad steering wheels. Most people put in a custom steering wheel. I really like the steering wheel for the GS, the 6970 GS. There are a few companies now that are remanufacturing that steering wheel, so it's a brand new steering wheel with a brand new rubber edge. Looks great, it looks just like the factory original, and you can buy the aftermarket steering horn buttons too, that is black, so that I've now got everything on the interior all brand new looking and all blacked out. So with everything now done in the car and I can drive it and enjoy it, I take it to a car show and I don't want to open the trunk lid. Now I want the trunk lid to be finished too. Now that's the last thing. On the engine bay, all the underneath side of the car is perfect. I want to take this car to the Autorama and I want to compete with the big boys. This car is really, really nice, but I don't have all the chrome and all the real high-end finished interiors, so I can't really compete with the big boys, but I want to be able to run with them. And by finishing this trunk with a real high-end finished trunk, this car should be able to stand up against them pretty well. So in the next video, I'll take you through building a complete trunk system, and wow, is it a lot of work. And it's a lot of weight. I wasn't planning on adding so much to it. I used some lightweight materials, some lightweight plywoods, so that I could enclose it all. I worked at a cutting die shop at the time, and they did rotary cutting dies and steel roll cutting dies for the packaging industry. And they had some really cool plywoods, some rounded plywoods, some things that I was starting to use and get my juices flowing and my imagination going. And I decided to build a plywood insert with hidden compartments so I could put my cleaning materials in a hidden compartment, and a big subwoofer speaker on one side that had baffles that had run the sound up into the car. And I wanted another hidden compartment on the floor that would be just tall enough that I could hide a seat, a chair, so that if I go to a car show, I can pull a chair out, sit on the lawn and talk to people. As well as I wanted to put the air compressor in that well, and I wanted to run an air hose and some different accessories out of that well and have it all be hidden. And by doing that, I don't have a spare tire, and I don't want to make the well big enough to hide a spare tire, so then I can put a patch kit in that well and an air hose where I can fix a tire on the side of the road. It'd be one of those quick plug type things, but to get out of a pinch when you're out in the middle of nowhere and you get a flat tire, that I will walk you through and show you in my next video. So thanks again for watching. I appreciate you tuning in. Again, give me that thumbs up if you would. I really appreciate it. Subscribe, share the video. Thanks again for watching. TTFN, ta-ta for now.